Wow, what an amazing interview with Pastor Gadsby. And it's so true that so many people were impacted by this. And what he said, you know, don't run away from God, run to God. That is the key to getting through every bit of hard times in our life. But our natural reaction is when we're in grief, anger is part of grief, and sometimes you just want to like totally not talk to God and shut him out.
And these pastors and the Christians and the people of these towns have been just absolutely amazing. Now, the town where I live in is St. Albert, Alberta, and we lost 3 players were killed on that bus crash. And my wife, my daughters, family, friends, people in St. Albert were up putting ribbons around our city, you know, to... Everybody wants to do something.
Yeah, to express their sympathy and their compassion.
Absolutely. You know, we had Logan Hunter, Stephen Wicks, Jackson Joseph, his dad, Chris, former NHL player, all from our community, live actually close by to where we are. Connor Lucan also played on the St. Albert Raiders from Slave Lake, Alberta, and they were all a part of the St. Albert Raiders AAA midget team.
And of course, we saw social media blow up yesterday with the Sticks Out campaign, people putting hockey sticks on their porch, on their front lawns, remembering the Humboldt Broncos, just a way to say that we're with you, Humboldt, that we care for you. I've seen it all over my social media. It really touches my heart. Hockey is so central to what it means to be a Canadian.
It absolutely is, Cheryl, and you know, there's going to be, I know, a lot of grief continue to happen, but there's also going to be good things. Anyway, the president of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, Bill Chow, had a press conference yesterday in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, and talked about what hockey means to that province.
In Saskatchewan, the 12 teams that we have in Saskatchewan are community-owned. So community-owned is what it means, community-owned. They're all run by volunteers. There's nobody getting any money. They're all volunteer people coming here, taking tickets, you know, whatever they can do within the rink to help the team be successful. And so, you know, the one lady in Humboldt here, I was talking to her, and I'm not sure how old she is, and she'd probably shoot me if I said an age, but I won't. But she's a second-generation billet mom. She's had billets in her house since she was 4 years old. She's got children that are probably 16 years old. So what it means to people in Saskatchewan is that hockey is bred into you. It's part of our life. Winters are cold, if you haven't noticed. Springs are cold, if you haven't noticed. And so, you know, it's just the way it is. You go to the rink. You go to the rink because it's part of the community. You go to the rink to meet people, to talk to people, to socialize. That's what hockey means to Saskatchewan.
Hockey is definitely at the heart of what it means to be Canadian. And we just want to thank you for walking with us these past 2 days as we honor those in Humboldt. We grieve with our fellow Canadians across this country. You know, you heard earlier from one of our team members who we sent to Saskatchewan on Saturday. As soon as we heard about this story, we knew there was a God story that needed to be told. You know, one thing I've learned my years as a reporter here at 100 Huntley Street is that no matter how dark the story, no matter how painful it is, God is still at work in the midst of it. It is not the mainstream media's mandate to find those God stories or even to talk about them when they find them. That is our mandate, because we know that God is faithful, that when we don't feel like he's with us, when we don't see him, he is there. And it's because of your support that you helped us, and you help us every day fuel this team of media missionaries to tell these stories of courage in the midst of fear, hope in the midst of great tragedy. You help us get the country praying, tell these stories, bring us together in difficult times. We see that as our mandate. We know we can unite people across this country in grief. We know we can bring hope in darkness. We know we can get people to pray. So I just want to thank you for helping us be the Christian voice in media. I want to invite you to join us if you haven't, to continue that work, to help fuel this mission. If you want to join us, if you want to be part of it, please call 1-800-265-3100 or visit 100huntley.com. Thank you so much.
Media. This medium. Curated, created, constructed, and colluded to communicate, to influence, to connect, and entertain. With ease, with speed. Over 7 billion people yearning to connect, yearning to be fed, always looking out for whatever's cool, whatever's funny, whatever's trending. The medium is the message, but are we receiving the message? When everything is constantly moving, constantly changing, there is one thing that will not change, one thing that will outlast our lives, one thing that lasts longer than time itself, one thing that knows no bounds, no status, no color. That one thing has a name. As missionaries, we are here to share that one name, Jesus. Using the ease and speed of media to spread light to the lost, to communicate, to influence, to inform, to connect. We are media missionaries.
Paul Allen is the team leader for Hockey Ministries Ontario. He works with chaplains right across the country. Paul, this has been a very difficult time. How did you feel and react when you heard what had happened to the Humboldt Broncos?
Obviously, at the beginning, it's shock. And then I think it's a numbing, and continues to be a numbing sadness, that there is just a long journey of grief ahead for these dear people, and you just deeply, deeply feel for them.
Hockey, of course, is huge in Canada, and I, of course, have a strong connection to Saskatchewan, been in many of those towns. I've worked in, with junior hockey teams. A community like Humboldt or Nipawin, where the team was traveling to, they love hockey. It is such an important part of the culture.
Very much so. I always like to say that hockey is a great game, but it's a terrible god. And Canada sometimes, I think, gets a bit confused as to whether it's a game or a god. And certainly right here in Toronto, we're all anticipating, the playoff run that's going to happen, and it will occupy the news streams and everything else. But it is, if you want to understand Canada, I think you have to understand the role hockey plays in it.
You must have been tremendously proud of Sean Brando, your chaplain, pastor out in Humboldt. Just what an amazing job he did under incredible circumstances. But that's why you have chaplains in there, to bring hope and help to these young men.
Absolutely. Sean obviously spoke deeply from his own heart. And Sean did not drop into that situation, but he had been part of the team for 4 or 5 years. And if you just to hear him speak, he planned games for them to play away from it. He provided meals for them, all of those things. So he built a friendship and a trust. And nothing would have prepared Sean for what he drove up and arrived at to see the scene the way it was. But certainly the Lord sustained him and will continue to, as he will be Jesus' presence in the midst of this very, very sad situation.
I've been involved with Hockey Ministries years ago, and it was very difficult to get into many of the junior teams, and certainly the NHL. That's even changed. Why has there been a change? Why have you had more opportunity to have chaplains with a lot of these junior teams and beyond?
Well, I think there's a change in the culture, in that I think the culture is now open to anything. And so I think that's one of the reasons. The second thing is that we have been involved in the difficult situations, and teams have actually ended up that wouldn't have us as a chapel program, but when something has happened, such as a tragedy, a death, they have turned to us. And I think more and more teams are seeing that while we want to bring the person of Jesus Christ right into the dressing room, there is a character element to what we do, but there's also a whole other area of bringing the big issues of life to the fore into the lives of the players.
You think about these young players, and I think the youngest one that passed away was 16 years old. But, and a lot of these guys came from even Alberta, several of them from the community I live in St. Albert. So they're sending them to another province. For the parents, that's pretty scary. They want to know that there are people there that are looking after them.
There are actually teams that are using Hockey Ministries as a recruiting tool, that when parents are asking these tough questions, they're going, well, we do have this chaplain, and they'll have our chaplains often at the introductory dinners, just to bring some peace to the parents' minds. But it's a huge issue for young players to be living away from home.
And even for your NHL, why do you think that has opened up?
Again, well, I think because it has been such an impact at the junior level and at the minor pro level. We're in the East Coast League, well, actually called the ECHL now. We're most teams in the American League. And as it's filtered up through the junior players coming up, they've wanted to have chapels. And so now I think we're in 26 or 27 of the 31 NHL teams.
Well, I'm so glad that, Hockey Ministries International and Sean Brando, who was there at such an important time. And we need to be praying for people like Sean, the others that are dealing with this tragedy. It's been horrible, but I am so glad that, you and your organization have been there to bring hope, Paul. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll have more of 100 Huntley Street right after this.